Hello, good evening, and welcome back. And here we have another vision of the anointed, whereby people don't care how much harm they cause to other people because they believe what they are doing is right, and no amount of appeal to logic or emotion is going to change them from their religion. So with these radicals we have here, they are the Extinction Rebellion crowd. So, from the Daily Mail, Extinction Rebellion founder Roger Hallam is arrested for the second time in 24 hours as Heathrow protesters are forced to hold their drones above their heads after police jam signals as demonstration descends into farce. And hey, it's about time. I've been a fan of drones for a long time. I do have model aircraft flying experience, and I have, of course, been concerned about the safety and security threat they hold. For example, you could get a model gas turbine, or if you want electric, because hey, it's better for the environment, you can use an EDF, an electric ducted fan. You can simply strap some Semtex to it, or whatever explosive you wish, pick one of your choice, and then you can fly it into whatever building or whatever area you wish to disrupt. Quite simple. You don't need to use a drone as in a quadcopter, or a hexcopter if you want 6 blades or 6 motors instead. You can simply use an aircraft and do a kamikaze style, as inspired by the World War II Sakura Japanese pilots. And that's where crystal meth was invented as well, just as an aside. And from what I've read, heard and learned, is that the most effective parts from their kamikaze bombing was actually their fuel tanks. They of course wouldn't have landing gear on their aircraft because hey, they're not going to land anywhere, and it helps for their aircraft then. But they would only just have enough fuel in order to penetrate the enemy, the Americans in this case, and to fly into them. So if they had a strong headwind, they'd dish it in the ocean and they'd be useless, and if they had a strong tailwind, they were able to get past the initial defences and cause some more serious damage. And it was the fuel tanks in particular, it was the fuel that caused most of the damage, because then that would seep into anywhere that was open and wreak much more havoc that way. In which case, no, that's not a reference to the A-20G Havoc built by the Americans, but in that case, what the Americans realised is it's better to just seal off their guns. It's better to not shoot them, because then they'd be causing just as much damage when they landed, because they'd be open to attack. It's similar to how in the Second World War, the mosquitoes, the de Havilland, I believe it's de Havilland mosquitoes, took out the V1s, as is kind of referenced in Hot Shots, the spoof of Top Gun, that is, instead of shooting the buzz bombs behind them, in which case they'd be caught in the flak, is they would get along the side of them, nudge them with their wings, no shooting involved at all, which would knock their gyroscopes off and then cause them to land in a field and explode there, being reasonably harmless. And as an aside, because hey, we're in the mood for tangents apparently, the V1 control panel was rectified by a female German pilot who flew a mock-up, a prototype of the V1 in order to fix it. Yes, that was a female pilot, so yeah, there you go. As far as female involvement is concerned, it was a female who was responsible for the V1, the Vengeance rocket, for being successful. And that was a pulse jet engine, which is a very basic jet engine. You just put fuel into it, you ignite it, and it comes out the back. Similar to the electric ducted fans, not like the gas turbine or what was used for rockets, for example, for the V2, or a jet engine like was used for the first operational jet fighter ever, which was of course the Messerschmitt 262 Schwalbe, meaning swallowed. But enough of that. Anyway, back to the news. Heathrow protester Roger Hallam arrested today trying to fly drone near airport. Cool. Had been preemptively arrested on Thursday and released on Friday night. That's effective, isn't it? Police detained 20 protesters on public nuisance grounds to avoid massive disruption. Yep, well, they're not going to stop. Yesterday, activists attempting to fly drones claimed they had, signals jammed. Former Paralympian James Brown handed himself over to police for protesting. That's basically just a high-profile gentleman who has decided to participate in the Extinction Reblelion. So, with regards to them saying that they've police detained 20 protesters on public nuisance grounds to avoid massive disruption, they're saying that they have many people willing to fill their ranks and willing to go to prison for it. And of course, it's similar to the road disruption, whereby there was an Extinction Rebellion participant in tears on a radio interview when she was informed that her protesting had caused a gentleman who was trying to drive, I believe it was to his mother's deathbed, might have been his grandmother's deathbed, in order to be with her during her final moments, and then missed out on it because the roads were closed because of her. And she was in tears because of it. She was apologetic that sorry it had to happen this way, but it did have to happen. She wasn't going to listen to emotion, believe it or not, with regards to trying to stop her from her nuisance and her demonstrating. She was actually going to do it. And Tim Pool released a video recently showing how willing people are in order to deal with climate change with regards to financial incentives. Are people willing to spend money to stop it? With $10 per month, yeah, pretty much, but when it gets up to $50, for example, no, they're really not. And it's that kind of thing. You also have that kind of carbon tax and offsetting that you can go to if you're concerned that carbon is the issue. But of course, methane is a bigger issue, and when it comes to pollutants, the material objects themselves are more of an issue. We have a plastic island the size of Texas, I believe, hurling around. But again, that's because of China and India, not because of the West. It's because of developing countries. And how imperialistic do you want to be when you say, hey, you countries that are developing, that are doing exactly what we used to do, yeah, you can't do that, you can't advance anymore, because now we know that's not good for the environment, and we've used up all the resources that are allowed to be used, and yeah, you're not allowed to follow. It's like, okay, what about nuclear? No, that's not good, because of nuclear waste and radiation, and the issue that can cause, considering that no nuclear waste at the moment is in long-term storage. But then that gets into the whole uranium-235 to 238 deterioration process, in which that is only used in order to further the nuclear testing and nuclear weapons programs by various countries, which is why they didn't pick thorium instead, because they need weapons-grade plutonium. But hey, maybe I'm just too black-pilled for this. So, let's read on. In a tweet, Heathrow pause. This is the group responsible for trying to pause Heathrow's third runway. But of course, it isn't just to postpone it, it is to cancel it outright. Roger Hallam, co-founder of Extinction Reblelion, what's that twat? Has just been rearrested attempting to fly a drone as part of the Heathrow pause in Stanwell near Heathrow Airport. He had been preemptively arrested on Thursday and was released from custody late last night. Here, the gentleman who used to be an organic farmer, in case you're interested, and then turned into an activist. So we have some photos. He definitely looks reasonable, doesn't he? But then again, he looks a bit like Julian Assange does now. So, the group praised him for his courage and sacrifice, which shows just how delusional these people are. The Metropolitan Police said 20 people have been arrested since Thursday in relation to the protest, and a dispersal order around the airport will remain in place until 4:30 a.m. on Sunday to prevent criminal activity which poses a significant safety and security risk to the airport. And most of it, same with Gatwick last year, I believe, they had a few. One was near Christmas, because I was hoping to fly out there and see the Christmas markets with my girlfriend when I was working with EasyJet, but hey, nonetheless, there we go. Wasn't allowed to do it because of the drones. And don't get me started on EasyJet's refund policy, but never mind. That they said, yeah, you could have 5 years if you're disrupting, and then of course a life sentence if you're causing danger to the passengers. It's similar to a bird strike, in which of course the drone could go through the wing, as they go on to mention. You could get caught up in an engine, which is most problematic for aircraft, as was shown with the whole miracle on the Hudson. Or you could go through the windscreen. However, that's more of an issue with light aircraft. It's with a heavy aircraft, the windscreen is too thick. And you can have massive cracks, splintering, a whole spider's web going on with commercial airline windscreens, and it's not going to cause much of an issue. In fact, that was with one of the aircraft I was on, but hey, passengers don't know that. But they go on to say, the demonstration orchestrated by environmental group Heathrow Pause, I think that's putting it very politely, was thwarted as soon as the first drone flight was attempted at around 3 a.m. yesterday morning. Anti-drone jamming defense systems at Britain's busiest disabled the toy drone, stopping it from taking off. The protest quickly turned into a farce as activists were forced to wave their drones around in the air instead of flying them. The aborted flight was caught on camera and posted on a live Twitter feed set up by Heathrow Pause a splinter group of the Extinction Reblelion movement shortly after 3 a.m. They could go back to control-wise if they wanted. They could go back to stones if they wanted, because if you have anything like a FOD, which is, I forget what it stands for now, but it's essentially a foreign object, anything like that, like a plastic bag, can work havoc to the aircraft because they have to be so light and they're delicately put together. That's kind of the American compared to Russian mentality, that the Americans are very delicate with their fighting machines, like the F-35 for example, which tries to be a jack of all trades and so is a master of none, whereas the Russian Sukhois for example, they could land on a field and take off again. They're very rugged instead, but of course then they're not so agile. But this means that you can cause distress, duress to an airport and the commercial aircraft trying to take off with just some bits and pieces, anything. For example, one of the aircraft we were hoping to use was grounded because somebody from whatever religion, I don't know, for luck, they tossed a coin into the engine. Yeah. And that grounded the aircraft. And to show how delicate these are, another time when I was on board, we had the ground crew drive the stairs into the aircraft, which caused a few tears, one of which went into a rivet, and therefore, because there was an engineer on board, he assessed and went, no, this isn't happening, I'm getting off, which meant everybody else had to. And another time, to show that it's not so fragile, is when a small aircraft hit one of the engines when we were in Innsbruck, I think, I'm not sure, but it's all Europe anyway with EasyJet, mainly, except for Turkey, Israel, Morocco and Egypt. And they said that we can still fly, so we were able to fly back to Gatwick. But enough of that. Anyway, moving on, they show the exclusion zone here. So, they say, under cover of darkness, the two male activists attempted to launch a drone on a small field 150 yards from the barbed wire fence near the airport's southern perimeter, protecting the runway from intruders. An activist filming his fellow protesters said in a strong European accent, what the hell does that mean? Do you mean Swedish? Yeah. Do you mean that is German? Yeah. Do you mean it is the French accent? Do you mean it's Italian? No. It's Spanish. it's more of a thick Bulgarian. I'm not going to do that. Eastern European bordering Russian. What do you mean? I don't know. But hey, Europe is clearly just one big monolith, and the European Union and Europe are clearly indistinguishable from each other, according to the BBC. But anyway, so I don't know how to say this, but let's just go with English. Let's go with MOG, why not? Basically, we've got a little technical glitch. The drone isn't flying, so we'll just have to improvise on plan B. And it's also very dark here, but you see, we're holding the drone head high, and we've got two people watching, so unfortunately, no drone flying, just drone posing. Quickly realizing the signal had been jammed, he said, so basically, I think Heathrow are going to be completely happy with this, and all passengers will be very happy. We unfortunately are not so happy. At the end of the surreal video, he insisted it has been a real success, as the number of fellow protesters have been arrested and more drone flights were planned. He concluded, we urgently need to stop any economic expansion, any economic growth, and we need to degrow. So, shrink, decrease, devolve. Regress, if you will. Not progress, but regress. Funny that. Almost as if that's what they've been going for this entire time. Which suggests to me that yet again, just like the Green New Deal, suggested by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her baby, of which it was apparently a working draft that had been sent forward out to the papers, as well as released on her own website by an intern who was having a bad day, was actually what she wanted, and it seems odd that it wouldn't have gone past her desk before it had gone out, considering it was her little brainchild, but nonetheless, that is apparently how it is just a front for communism, essentially, with a guaranteed income, for example, for people unwilling to work. It's a similar thing here, that they don't care about economic progress. And although I am quick to dismiss this, I would like to say that, well, what does it mean to progress? How are we going to measure this? Because you could measure it in happiness, in which case you could say that people are happier when they're with the land, instead of in a concrete jungle. You could use the recidivism of people in jail, for example, if they're overlooking a concrete courtyard instead of rolling hills. And then the difference is quite remarkable. Yes, I do completely understand that. However, and it did take me a while to work this out, that given a pro-capitalist mentality, you can simply say, well, it's quite simple. That capitalism, free market, that allows people to specialize in what they want to specialize in. Nothing is going to work for everybody, I completely understand that. However, it means that you don't have to live off the land and just live off what you can grow and what you can farm, but it means that you can specialize in more technological things if you wish to. And you might say, well, hey, you've got a higher depression rate and a higher suicide rate because people aren't feeling fulfilled through their lives because they haven't got the bigger problems to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and then they can get wrapped up in an existential crisis. And yet that's fine, in which case I would say that any form of education hasn't yet caught up to the advancements in technology, and considering we have an exponential increase, every 3 years the capacity doubles until you get down to quantum tunneling because transistors get too small, but enough of that's going to be the physical limit. Similar with heat and Planck length when it comes to wavelength. But nonetheless, that when people specialize and they pursue something that is meaningful and substantial to them, that is where they're going to feel the happiest. And that's the same as I try to say to everybody who's watching, that if you follow the money, you're going to be quite sad about it. But if you follow your passion, the money will follow. It doesn't mean you're going to be the richest person, but you have a higher chance of being the richest person. What it means is that you're going to feel most fulfilled and the money won't matter so much. Bill Burr says a similar thing about sleeping on a futon in order to try and be a comedian. Otherwise, at the very least, and this is the same that I found, it's better to have done something that you're proud to have done but you don't enjoy doing and almost wish you'd never have done, than to have not done it and wish that you would do. And that's the issue here. That you have to do something to know you don't want to do. And I know that sounds cynical, but nonetheless, that is the fact of the matter. So moving on, I'm just going to finish up by showing you how it shows a drone going through a wing, as we can see here. And there we go. Which can of course cause terrible structural damage because that's where the fuel tanks are stored. That was a Russian idea, by the way. And it was flying from Russia to America using this idea of putting fuel tanks in the wings that got America quite scared that the Russians could then fly to America. But we won't get into the whole 3-1000s idea with Germany wanting a 1,000-pound bomb at 1,000 miles an hour with a 1,000-kilometer range, and they did almost do it. They were going to use the Focke-Wulf 190 Condor, which was a heavy bomber created in the 1930s, in order to bomb, I think it was New York, ditch the aircraft and then be picked up by a submarine. That was the plan. It was a morale killer because of course they didn't have nuclear weapons by then. You can go into the whole Bell conspiracy if you want, but that's for another time. So, airline pilot Patrick Smith of AskThePilot.com said, "This has gone from being what a few years ago we would have called an emerging threat to a more active threat. The hardware is getting bigger and heavier and potentially more lethal, and so we need a way to control how these devices are used and under what rules." Which is, of course, more concerning if the airport themselves can't institute these policies. As in, they can't say, well, hey, why don't we freeway to just jam any channels, and if anybody wants to cause a problem, then of course they can come speak to us, open door policy and all that, because from then on you're going to have people launching bombs into the airport. You could destroy the runway, for example. That was Germany's main problem with the Second World War. As far as I'm concerned, with the UK not being able to go forward with Operation Sea Lion, that they decided because of a bomb on Berlin, that just because someone was ditching bombs, that Hitler decided, let's bomb London and take the pressure off the RAF air bases, which would have been a much better idea, and they probably would have been much more successful with the Battle of Britain, which was only in 1940, because of course the Blitzkrieg was their idea, the whole lightning war. They would have been able to trounce through Europe without much opposition if they had taken out the UK that way. The same thing with, of course, the U-boats being a big threat which the holdover from the First World War, destroying the merchant ships and any oil tankers, for example, anything like that travelling between the UK and the US. But anyway, that's enough for now. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that the UK Heathrow is being a bit too harsh on this Extinction Rebellion protester? Do you think they do have a right to protest and they should be able to take action, including grounding flights, if they think that's suitable? Or do you think they just need to grow up and actually go out to China, where when they rebel they just become fertilizer for the next year because they are killed, ground up and spread on the crops? Let me know what you guys think. Always enjoying to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.